Welcome back to the Grad-Centric Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the financial viability of your school list. And I'm not talking about the financial viability of your school list in terms of you actually paying to go there and being able to afford it. What I mean is the financial viability of the school itself. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, we have to worry about whether the schools that are on our list are going to remain open into the future. Now, several decades ago, we didn't have to worry about this. Colleges were in their boom years and they had plenty of enrollment and they were building and expanding. All sorts of great stuff for colleges. If you worked for colleges during that time, they really were the golden years. Whereas now, over probably the last decade or so, and especially now because of COVID-19, many colleges are struggling to survive financially. And if they're not struggling to survive financially, they're certainly struggling with budget cuts, program reductions, and other issues across the organization that are tied to finances. So what does this mean for college planning? Well, what I'm telling families and what I'm telling you right now through this podcast is you need to start doing research into whether the schools that are on your list are financially stable. Again, a little bit shocking to even say that this is now a consideration, but whether you're doing that research yourself or whether you're working with a college consultant or an education consultant to work with you to ensure that your schools are in a good place financially, it's something you now need to consider. And of course, COVID-19 has played a role in this, but actually I've posted in a recent blog on my website, this has been a trend for a while. So one of my recent posts, and in fact, we talk about that all U.S. public finance sector outlooks are negative. That's an SP Global article that I recently posted. And also, if you look even further back, so of course it's negative now and largely due to COVID-19. But if you even look back to 2017, Moody downgraded higher education from stable to negative almost 3 or 4 years ago. So it's not like this came out of nowhere. Many schools have been year to year on cash for quite a while. So when you look at schools on your school list, there's really two or three ways that you can do the research here. One is if it's a state school, you can look up the budgets, which is really great. Now, if you're not kind of skilled in terms of finance or accounting or reading financial statements, or especially financial statements that originate from a government entity, this may not be a very accessible option for you, but that is one way you can look at the financial viability of a school. The second is to maybe just go to the Wikipedia page and look up the endowment. Chances are, if your school has a larger endowment, that's going to make them more financially stable going into the future. Then I would look at the school's website itself and maybe even the student newspaper. So if you go there, a lot of times there are going to be recent articles on the financial viability of the organization. And if there are cuts going on, a lot of times there's writing about it within the press, whether that be, again, the student press, maybe press releases from the school or information on the school's website, or local news outlets that are maybe covering that city or that region. Finally, I would go to the Chronicle of Higher Education. The Chronicle of Higher Education is one of the main publications around higher education today, and it covers a lot of things like layoff trackers and talking about schools that are maybe going through budget crunches and crises. That's another great place to go. What else does this mean for your college planning experience? Of course, you want to make sure it's financially viable. Not only that, it's not only about the school maybe closing its doors, but it may be cutting your major before you're able to graduate. But it also means that many staff and faculty that are on campuses right now are probably going through phases of low morale and even wondering whether they're in the right industry or in the right job, maybe even thinking about going elsewhere, back to industry or what have you. So that's another piece that might affect your college experience, although I will tell you the staff and faculty that I've worked with and that I've engaged with are very committed to students, very committed to their colleges, and are probably not going anywhere soon unless somebody forces them out through some type of layoff for a lower cut. So that's what I have today for the financial viability of your school list. If you need help building a school list, and especially a school list that's strong in this area of finances, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next episode.